Howdy, everybody. It's a great day for American history. Today we're going to talk about the election of 1800. Um, the election of 1800, as the slide says, was one of the nastiest elections ever. The election of 1800 pitted the incumbent president, John Adams, who was a Federalist, against Thomas Jefferson, a Democratic Republican. As you might note, there were political parties. Sorry about that. George Washington. And for the first time in our nation's history, power would pass from one political party, the Federalists, over the Democratic Republicans, as Thomas Jefferson would eventually win the election of 1800. As it says toward the bottom of the slide, John Adams is pretty soundly defeated. He's defeated. And there ends up being a tie between two Democratic Republicans, Jefferson and Burr. Because there's a tie, it goes to the House of Representatives where they vote 36 times. On the first 35 ballots, they're deadlocked. It's tied. And then on the 36th ballot, it appears that Alexander Hamilton threw his weight a little bit behind Thomas Jefferson, feeling that Thomas Jefferson was a man of convictions and of beliefs and would be better for America than Mr. Aaron Burr, who Hamilton didn't think believed anything. And he was mostly right about that. The election of 1800 is also important for a couple other reasons. Jefferson's going to become our third president. Like we talked about, it's a peaceful transfer of power between Federalists and Democratic Republicans. It'll bring on the 12th Amendment because it's so confusing, and it has been for the last couple of elections. How you become president is a little bit confusing. And then having a vice president who could potentially be from the other party, like John Adams when he was president, had Thomas Jefferson from a separate party as his vice president. That ended up being a little bit weird. Our founding fathers really weren't anticipating that when they wrote the Constitution. And so they end up passing the 12th Amendment that says that the president and the vice president are going to run on the same ticket. The final reason, though, maybe that the election of 1800 is important is because, and sometimes it's called the Revolution of 1800. And the reason for that is because not only was there a transfer of power between parties, but those parties stood for different things. Some people see this as a completion of 1776, that the people are now a lot more in power, that it's not just rule by the elite Federalists, but rule by the common man. That's what Thomas Jefferson sort of stood for. And that, in a way, at least in the way that people are perceiving their government, is not a government that's run by the elite people, but by the common man, makes the election of 1800 important as well. And so those are kind of the big points from the election of 1800. Don't forget to smash that like button.